I quite enjoy the fall months. The beautiful yellows, oranges, and reds of the dead and decaying leaves are amplified by the breathtaking scenery spread throughout the United States Pacific Northwest, a region that I am lucky enough to call home. Fall brings crisp, smooth air that fills my lungs in such a way that makes me feel as if I'm taking my first breath. Fall also means that I get to bust out my sweater collection, and oh boy do I love my sweaters. For those reasons, I never miss an opportunity to go for a hike or to do the things that I love in the outdoors during this time of the year. Recently, however, law school has been keeping me busier than usual. I won't complain though. It was my choice to attend, and I know that I'll never make it to the White House if I'm complaining this early. Nevertheless, everyone needs to have some fun and step away from their daily grind every now and then. Last week, I finally had the chance to go for an adventure. It was after 4 p.m. and I had been studying my casebook all afternoon. Although I love my field of study, I was fed up past my chin that day with being cooped up in my apartment. It was then that I had a strike of spontaneity. I decisively slammed my book shut, pulled on my favorite beige turtleneck sweater, and drove nearly 3 hours to one of my favorite trails. When I got there, the mid-October eve was brisk but not freezing. Dusk was falling. Perfect, I thought. I love night hikes. There were still some cars in the main parking lot, but it was rather sparsely populated in comparison to how it is in the early hours of the afternoon. I was happy that I would be able to enjoy my time here with a much lower chance of someone spoiling my fun. I began my trek. 1 mile passed, 2 miles passed. As I walked, I felt peace, something that I had not felt in a long time. As I got deeper into the trail, I felt more and more comfortable around myself. I finally felt as if I could be myself again, instead of an overworked law student. 3 miles passed, 4 miles passed. The trail stretched for dozens of winding miles with its fair share of dips and bends. I'm in pretty good shape though, so I'm able to traverse most trails I visit with relative ease. The woods around me were now pitch black. I affixed my headlamp comfortably around my head and continued treading onward. 5 miles passed, 6 miles passed. Up until this point, I hadn't run into anyone else on the trail. Now, however, I started to see the faint yellow glow of a flashlight poking around the bend far ahead, moving in my direction. Though I don't fancy a crowded trail, I do appreciate these one-on-one exchanges between myself and fellow solo hikers. The all-too-common nod of solidarity that we each give each other as we praise the great outdoors and curse the consequences of the Industrial Revolution. It's priceless. Eventually, my fellow traveler came around the bend and we were approaching each other. The suspense was killing me. I just had to find out who else would be crazy enough to be out hiking in the dark. Alas, we came face to face. My new friend was a thin but athletic man of about 5'8", in his mid-30s with some dark stubble peppering his jawline, and wavy, medium-length brown hair. "Hey, I'm Gary. What brings you out here so late?" I said with a charming grin and a wave as we both slowed our pace and dimmed our lights to not blind one another. "Well, Gary, I'm Dan. And to tell you the truth, this was not the plan. I came out here at sunrise today with the intention of being back home before sunset, but I miscalculated how long it would take to get back. My phone died too, so the wife is most certainly either pissed off or worried sick. I was supposed to have dinner with her and the kids tonight. Dan said in a friendly but exhausted tone. "Oh, your phone died? That's too bad. I've got a portable charger in my bag if you want to call your wife," I offered. "Hey, gee, thanks, bud. That would be great," Dan said appreciatively. "Okay, cool. Just let me find it," I said cheerfully as I shuffled through the contents of my bag. "Aha!" I exclaimed as I pulled my hunting knife from the bag and unsheathed it. "Found it," I said, holding the large knife haphazardly in my right hand, an innocent smile across my face as I shot Dan a glance. "Wait, what the fu—" Dan spoke his last words as I swiftly plunged my knife into his throat, my cold eyes locked onto his, contrasting with my wide smile that was only growing wider. He pawed at my stiff arm in a futile attempt to survive. I pulled the knife from his throat and let him slump to the ground, bleeding profusely, coughing and gurgling. I laughed maniacally as I stared down at Dan, feeling the thrilling, euphoric rush of what I had just done that I hadn't felt in months. Shortly after, I stepped over his pathetic, writhing body and I continued my track. I was overjoyed to finally be doing what I loved again, and although Dan brought me great satisfaction, I still didn't feel like my night had to be over just yet. Thankfully, God seemed to have answered my prayers only about 2 miles ahead of Dan. This time, however, I saw 2 strong LED beams coming from around a distant bend, accompanied by a conversation in what sounded like walkie-talkie chatter. "Crap, there are park rangers and I'm out here at night. That's illegal," I thought to myself as I turned off my light and quietly started to make my way into the trees to the side of the trail. But then I had a really fun idea. "Help! Help! Somebody help me!" I shrieked in my most convincing tone as I stepped back onto the trail, switching my headlamp to full brightness, and began running in the direction of the likely park rangers. I immediately saw their pace quickened, and they were around the corner in a few moments, coming straight at me. I continued to cry out frantically, and even successfully produced fake tears. After a few minutes, standing in front of me was an enormously burly, 6'9", thickly red-bearded man, his badge read Officer Kemper. To his left was a woman of about 5'10", with dark, curly hair, skin so pale that it glowed in the dark, and a pair of wide-frame glasses resting on her sharply pronounced nose. Her badge read Officer Raider. By this point, I looked like I had been through a special kind of heck, and Dan's blood passed for my own, so they didn't bother asking me why I was out there at night. "My friend was attacked. Please, he's really hurt. You have to come quickly. It was a huge bear," I screamed between cries to the rangers, flailing my arms and pointing back towards where I had left Dan just 20 minutes prior. The rangers both drew their identical wood-handled revolvers, and Officer Raider told me to stay calm and stay close. She told me that they wouldn't let anything happen to me. We then proceeded back towards Dan in a light jog that was urgent but cautious. I mean, there was a bear on the loose. They began to ask me questions on the move about what the bear looked like, as if they had not seen bears in these parts before, and explained that this was an extremely rare occurrence. I told them that it was white. I told them that it was a polar bear. Fun fact, polar bears don't live in the Pacific Northwest. They exchanged worried glances with each other, but must have chalked my strange answer up to shock mixed with the forest's low visibility. The truth is, I just enjoyed toying with my victims before I pounced on them, and I absolutely love lying. Either way, we kept chugging. Eventually, we passed the bend and I knew Dan's body would show up any minute, so I had to brace myself to swiftly kill these armed, trained rangers, one of which was the human equivalent of Sasquatch on roids, once I saw that Dan had definitely not been attacked by a bear. We were getting really close. I gripped a smaller knife that I kept in my pocket, ready to go at Officer Radar's throat from behind and take her weapon to shoot Kemper with, as I knew somebody as massive as Kemper could probably take a few hits in stride and still have enough power to haul me back to the station and put me away for life at times 10. "Sir, are you alright?" Officer Kemper shouted ahead, coming to an abrupt stop with Raider and cutting my malevolent plotting session short. "Alright, it's go time. They see the body," I thought to myself as I pulled the knife from my pocket and positioned myself behind Raider. "Sure am," a voice exclaimed up ahead, stopping me dead in my tracks. It was Dan's voice, but something was off. It was far more gravelly and deeper than earlier, but most importantly, far too artificially chipper for a dead guy. Alarmed, I pushed between the tree-like officers to see with my own eyes. I couldn't believe it. Dan was standing upright, facing us, head cocked to the left. His throat was still slashed and far too much blood coated the ground beneath him for him to be alive. "Hey, buddy. Glad you came back for me," Dan said in that same strange voice. To my dismay, he wasn't seeking help from the authorities, despite remembering me. "Hey, Dan," I said in a bewildered, hesitant tone. "That polar bear really was something, huh?" he asked, cocky and unmoving. How could he possibly know that I told the Rangers a polar bear had attacked us? We were still approximately a mile away from here when I told him that. Why was he mocking me? Why wasn't he begging the Rangers to save him from the homicidal madman that was me? I had a million questions, but I got as close to an answer to some of them as I'll probably ever get within the next few moments. In the blink of an eye, he leapt forward with inhuman, tiger-like speed onto Officer Raider and tore her limb from limb. It was a gruesome and disturbing sight, even for me. I was frozen with fear as I watched Dan beat me at my own sick games. What was more frightening, however, was how many large caliber rounds Officer Kemper unloaded into Dan, to no avail. He emptied 6 from his revolver into Dan's chest, but they seemed to have no effect. It was as if Dan felt no pain. Kemper then ran over to where Officer Raider had dropped her gun, picked it up, and fired all 6 of her rounds into Dan as he continued to tear into Raider. That did garner a reaction from Dan, but I'm still not sure if this was just because he was done taking care of Officer Raider, or if he was genuinely hurt by one of Kemper's shots. Probably the former. Regardless, Kemper was overtaken at lightning-fast speed and I watched his enormous, 350-pound muscle-bound body be tossed effortlessly by the much smaller Dan, at least 30 feet into the air. He screamed terrifically as his entrails fell from his body in midair, before crashing back down to the compacted dirt of the trail and falling completely limp and silent. At that moment, my will to live overcame my shock and I bolted. I made it every bit of 3 feet. Dan grabbed me by my feet and pulled me to the ground. I fell face first onto the trail and then rolled to my back to see him standing over me, his head still rigidly cocked. A wicked grin was plastered across his face, which I noticed was completely deformed. It looked as if he was wearing a crude mask of a human face. Out of nowhere, it spoke. "Hey, I'm Gary. What brings you out here so late? I've got a portable charger in my bag if you want to call your wife." He rasped as he attempted to mimic my words from earlier. It was my voice this time, but still different in the same way as Dan's had been, with inhuman highs and lows. "Look, man, I'm so sorry for what I did to you. I can't control it," I uselessly tried to explain. Dan cackled. "I am no man," Dan said in his voice again, as he removed his skin to reveal an even more horrifying reality. As my victim's skin plopped to the ground, the thing wearing it seemed to expand and stretch. Standing fully upright, the beast stood at least 13 feet tall, making Kemper look small. The beast was made mostly of skeleton, rotting animal flesh and fur. Its face, however, was the worst. It was just a hollow deer skull, with dark eye sockets that were devoid of any life. Those sockets stared deeper into my soul than any eyes ever had.
"You tried to steal Dan from me, Gary. I was lucky to get here before he passed."
The thing bellowed demonically, its mouth unmoving. "I'm so sorry," I stuttered, on the verge of tears.
"You will be,"
the thing exclaimed matter-of-factly before leaping right at me. I remember screaming before being slammed to the ground. I blacked out. The next thing I know, I'm in a hospital. A nurse was in my room when I woke up, and I immediately asked what happened. She explained that I had been found out on the trail by hikers, with 2 dead park rangers, and that it seemed to be a bear attack. I had been in a coma for about a week. As I took all of this in, something caught my eye. She tried to protest, but I quickly tore away the pale blue hospital blanket that covered my legs. Or not. The nurse rushed out, presumably to fetch the doctor. My legs were now uneven stumps. They were gone from slightly above my knees down. That thing had taken my legs and let me live to torture me. That thing was too powerful to simply fail to kill me. If it had wanted me dead, I would not be waking up in a hospital. The monster was sadistic in every way. At least I did my victims the favor of ending their suffering within a timely manner. I began to sob, mostly because deep down I knew I deserved all of this, whatever this was. Whatever that thing was, I deserved all of its torture. I had ended 9 innocent people over the past 5 years. I knew in my mind that it was wrong. I just didn't feel in my heart, if you could call it that it was wrong. As I sobbed, the doctor came in to comfort me. He put his hand on my shoulder, seemingly thinking his useless empathy could grow me a new set of legs. Finally, he spoke.
"I told you you would be sorry, Gary. Now you can't hike in my woods ever again."
The frail old doctor said, in a gravelly, booming voice as he shot me a quick, toothy smile, and a disturbingly inhuman, awkward attempt at a wink, and then staggered out of the room.